G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach for DR and welcome to our second team preview for 2024. I've got an absolute legend of the SuperCoach community on here today to discuss his favourite team, the Mighty Hawks, getting closer and closer to that magical 1K subscription mark on his YouTube channel. An absolute up-and-comer, very much beloved, particularly on X and the Twitter community as well. It is Steve, my man from SDS SuperCoach. How are you going, legend? Thank you very much for joining us today on the channel.
Well, thank you very much, DR, for having me back on to the Hawthorn preview. Good to be back. Won't have to worry about Spills asking 10 different number questions and all that. So this time around. So I'm very excited to be on once again. And it's an honor to be on the channel.
I appreciate you coming on, mate. Now, we did actually catch up in person a couple of times last year. There was one night at Crown. Everyone got a little bit loose there, a few content creators just before the Lions and the Pies game. But we actually got to catch up at the footy. So I was expecting the best day possible, you know. I'm on the train on the way in thinking, great, I'll get to meet an absolute legendary bloke here, Steve from SDS. And hopefully, well, it's a matter of how much the Lions are going to win by over the Hawkers here. I was hoping for a nice 6 to 7 goal win. But was I disappointed? Things were certainly the opposite. Didn't pan out that way. You turned out to be an absolutely shit bloke, and the Hawkers knocked us off. So it wasn't a great day from my perspective, mate. But congratulations on that last win. A bit shattering, but you're a little bit up and about after that, weren't you, buddy?
Oh mate, yeah, and I was a bit loose by the end of the by the siren. I was a bit tipsy, but no, it was good. I still remember recording a video of me singing the song and you going, Steve, get stuff, buddy. So it was a ripper day. Great to meet up with you. And we're playing each other again in Melbourne this year, but unfortunately, it's at the shithole of Marvel. Unfortunately, yeah. We'll have to catch up again, mate.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. We'll be there with absolute bells on, mate. Now, before we actually get into this preview, mate, tell us a little about what's been going on with your YouTube channel. Because as you mentioned, last year you came on for the Hawks preview. You've just been growing and growing and growing. How's that been going for you, mate? The whole content creating stuff in the last sort of 6 odd months.
So it's been really enjoyable. I mean, I think fair to say my channel's grown a fair bit over the past 12 months. I still remember asking you when you sent the tweet out, we're doing team previews. Let me know. Send me a DM if you're interested. And I just thought, gee, I need to jump on this. So I asked DR, and that's really where things really started to kick off with my channel. And now fast forward 12 months now, and there's been a lot more support on X or Twitter. And there's a lot more on the YouTube channel. So hopefully we can get to 1K subs before round 1 2024. We'll see how we go. It's just an absolute, it's a bit surreal just building up a bit of a community. And it's pretty sick.
Awesome. It's very, very well deserved, mate. Now, we are going to go through sort of line by line here. There are, I think, a few relevant players for the Hawks this year. We will actually start off in defense. And we're going to start off with a man that, well, there was a bit of a controversial incident in that game that we watched, wasn't there, between the Hawks and the Lions. My man, Huey McCluggage, knocked out, KO'd, very, very wobbly on his feet. He walked past us on the boundary line. What were we, like 50 metres away from the action, do you think, mate? Or it wasn't, we were close enough, weren't we, to sort of get a bit of a visual, but we didn't actually see what happened at the time, did we?
Well, I'd say it happened around high half forward, I think at the Lions end. And so I'd say it was more like we're a bit further up, so probably about 100 metres away. But I'm no good with maths. But well, because originally I thought, because he was, from what I could see, he was holding his knee. And I thought he did his ACL. And but obviously injuries are no good. But and obviously he seems to be fine now. But concussion was probably the best case scenario in that situation.
Yeah, that's true.
It was pretty relieving for you blokes, of course, that he didn't do his ACL, because it looked like he was holding his knee, but he was just super concussed. And yeah, I thought Sicily deserved to get suspended. 3 weeks, so I thought was a bit stiff.
Yeah, very, very unlucky, mate. Well, let's get to his slide. And we can see here, mate, that he's going to be a pretty popular selection this year. Owned by almost 40% of teams at time of recording. 19 games last year. Where were those games missed? Obviously, we just talked about the suspension there. 114.1 for a season average. Uber elite for a defender. Disposals, 26.4. Almost 2 contested marks. 8 contested possessions per game. And took 45 kick-ins. That's in total. Played on 93% of the time. So, in your opinion, mate, do you think that James Sicily is a very easy lock this year? We haven't talked about the buys. Got a pretty friendly buy as well, the Hawks. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But is it as easy as lock this man in and throw away the key for now, buddy?
Oof. I wouldn't call him an easy lock, and I wouldn't call him a lock. I get different perspective when picking Hawthorn premiums, because to be honest, I actually don't like picking Hawthorn premiums because I get a different perspective with Hawthorn specifically compared to the other 17 clubs where it's more of a neutral view, of course, because I'm a mad Hawthorn supporter. So maybe I'm underrating the great man, but it's I guess it's more the thing of the important thing for Sicily is if Blank and Frost are playing, if they're both playing, because it's important for Sicily, because if Sicily only has one of them in the team, then he's going to be playing on the second key defender. He can't be swooping in, taking intercept marks, that sort of thing. So I think it's pretty important for him to have Blank and Frost play. But at the same time, I guess you could say is if he's the third key defender, maybe he's more likely to receive a tag. And so I guess there's a bit of that mixture. Like 637,000 is a fair bit. As I said last year, it was 624K. 637 is a lot to pay up for a defender. But we know what his ceiling is. His ceiling's unbelievable, as we can see on the screen there. Just some thank you, DR, for doing a few stats as well. I was a bit slack on the notes compared to last year. Just some unbelievable scores. But I think teams might look to do what North Melbourne did. I mean, it didn't help them. We still won pretty comfortably, but certainly look to have a defensive forward on him at all times. Who was it on him last year? Was it Bailey Scott? No. Curtis Taylor. I think it was Curtis Taylor.
Yeah, because I remember thinking, like, you've done nothing, mate. But you're killing me with James Sicily. And out of all players, I'm like, Curtis Taylor?
Yeah.
Please, what is happening? So you're right, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the week I brought him in as well. And I'm just thinking, not again. My Hawthorn bias just completely ignored it. But I totally didn't see it coming. So I think he could be more likely to receive a tag if he's the third key defender. But also, I feel like his scoring's a bit limited because he's not going to be rebounding and intercepting. If he's playing on, Essendon are playing each other round one. Let's say we're playing Essendon round one. Let's say we just pick Blank, and so Blank goes on Peter Wright, but then Sicily would go on a Wiedemann or whatever the case may be. So, but if Frost was playing, Frost would probably go on Wiedering to match his pace. But then it would also open up Sicily potentially being tagged. So I'm going a little bit in circles here with this bloke, but I did do ratings again in terms of the pick. I believe I gave James Sicily 7.5 last year. This year I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 as a pick. So I'm going to say he's a little bit better as a starting pick than last year, just due to best 18 and the hurt factor. He could go a massive score, a mammoth score that could really affect non-owners, and especially in best 18 where massive scores are just so more important than ever now. But I do think he will bleed a bit of cash at some point. I think he can get down to as low as 550. I'll give him an 8 out of 10 as a pick. Love the great man. But just a few little thoughts on him. So, yeah.
Very nice. And look, and just a little tidbits there that you gave us. If you're 50-50 on someone like a James Sicily, then you may need to really leave it as late as you can to see who's actually selected in that round one side. And as you just said, mate, if you see a couple of those other keys selected in there, then that may give you a little bit more confidence that Sicily can have that upside by being able to be freed up a little bit more. But you're right that the thing for me comes back to that hurt factor. There's not a heap of blokes in the competition that can genuinely hurt you as a non-owner. And I think that Sicily is someone that certainly can. So that ceiling is something that's really attractive to me. I've got this bloke currently in my team at D1. He's pretty locked in. But after having that quick conversation, a couple of red flags there, depending on team selection, come round 1. So great discussion there, mate. Super, super relevant player, 39.8%, as we mentioned. So the next player we're going to go to is, I'll tell you what, probably my favorite player. This is for the Hawks. I love Day. I love Sicily. But he's top 3. I'll give him top 3. It's Joshy Weddle. I just love the way this bloke goes about his business, mate. He gets the ball and the bugger takes off. He just makes it up, I think, half the time. May not have a plan in mind where he's going, what's actually going to happen, but he tends to make something happen. And that's what I love about Josh Weddle, particularly for a young type player. You've got to have a fair bit of confidence to really take the game on as early in your career as what he has. Made a few mistakes here and there, but I think from a coaching point of view, that's okay. If you're going to take the game on, son, you're going to make mistakes at time, but you also open up plays and create some scoring opportunities coming off half back there. So 17 games, average of almost 67 there, 5 kick-ins, so not much data there. 5.2% of coaches are interested in Josh Weddle this year. I remember back to Chris's team review or reveal from SuperCoach Insider. He was running with Weddle, and it sort of pricked my ears up a little bit. I just scrolled past this fella, but given the fact that someone like Chris, who I really respect as a coach, was even sniffing around him, let alone he'd made his way into his side, it did get me a little bit interested in looking into Weddle. Now, questions for me, mate. Where does he play? Now, I've heard he's going to play a little bit of wing, push up the ground. I've also heard he's training at half back. He'll be one of those attacking defenders. Where do you see this man playing in regards to role in 2024?
Oh, they are like I felt like I had a good read with Hawthorn last season. This year it's a lot tougher because I think Sam Mitchell's implementing a lot more versatility in certain players, a lot of moving magnets around. Now that's might be because I feel like our team's quite a bit stronger than it was this time last year. Players are more developed. I know that Sam Mitchell loves versatility. So, mate, it's tough to. I can't give you like I know what role he's going to play because I think it's going to be a mixture of halfback and wing. There'll be some games where he's predominantly wing. There'll be some games where he's predominantly halfback. Might be matchup dependent, that sort of thing. Just spend a little bit of time on both positions to develop his game. So, I mean, yeah. So the real question with me is I don't like particularly picking breakout candidates for my SuperCoach Classic team because it is a lot hard. It's very hard to predict who's going to break out. Who picked Caleb Sarong last season in their starting team? It's tricky. And more often than not, players don't break out. Now, I do love Josh Weddle as a player, but I just don't think he's a SuperCoach Classic pick because, you know, it might be very good to see him play off. There might be occasions where he plays halfback and think, bloody hell, he's good. But I think he's going to rotate a little bit on the wing as well. Sometimes him running with the ball, it's like a chicken with his head cut off. So yeah, he runs like a madman, but I love it. So look, I'm going to be honest. I'll give him a 3 out of 10 as a starting pick. I think he's a very sneaky draft option. I just don't think he's the SuperCoach Classic type that we can be picking just yet.
Beautiful work, mate. It just reminded me when you said that. This is shout out to my Uncle Jeff. He's shit scared of birds, right? Because when he was a young fella, I reckon he's about 5 years old, back, in the farming days, my great Uncle Pat, chopped a rooster's head off. And, it's still got the nerves in it and it starts running around. It started chasing him around the table. And every time he's walking, like it might be just a little sparrow or something, mate, he craps his pants. He hates birds, mate. So it just reminded me about my uncle there. But you're right, doesn't he? He just sort of goes around. Reminds me a little bit of a lizard in a way. He just gets around. And, I love watching a lizard play. Yeah, great haircut as well. You've got to rate that. come on, mate, with that haircut, surely he pushes up to at least a 5, doesn't he? From your 3 rating. Give the man.
I'll give him 0.5 for the haircut. 3.5 out of 10 mate. As a pick. I still wouldn't go
there. Beautiful, mate. All righty. Now, another bloke that we're going to move on to now is a bloke that came across, obviously, from the Bombers last year. It is Massimo D'Ambrosio, 21 years old, only 8 games last year, but I do have an asterisk because many of those games were actually sub-affected. That resulted in a pretty lowly average of 40.3, 10.9 disposals, 2.7 contested, 1.2 tackles. But remember, this is in limited game time. Many of these games are sub. So take those disposal averages with a grain of salt. Almost 2% of coaches at the moment. Now, there may be just auto-select teams. I'm not too sure here, Steve. But there are, 200 teams that are looking to start this man. What do you think about his prospects? Now, before we get into him, I've got a few notes here. The fact that, and maybe similar to a Josh Weddle, he can play a variety of roles. So I think he can play down back as that attacking half backer on a wing, even pushing up to a half forward. We've talked about his value there, but is he even best 22? I think there are a few teams that were keen on bringing Massimo across. Did the Hawks guarantee him a particular spot, guarantee him some game time? It's pretty hard to do. My main concern is competition for spots. Now, I've already mentioned a couple of players, but who we haven't talked about here is blokes like your Scrimshaw types. I know someone like a Seamus Mitchell, who you mentioned is out with injury at the moment, but your CJ types, I could just keep on naming them. Who on earth's actually going to play down back? What do you think about this man, Massimo, buddy?
Well, for what it's worth, I think he's currently training to be a winger. So he's not training with the defenders. He's training to be a winger. So I think the spot's up for grabs. I mean, I think there's a little bit of mix of Weddle in there trying to compete a spot on the wing. CJ's moved up to the wing now. And you've also got Josh Ward, who's been playing a bit of time on the wing. And you've also got blokes like Harry Morrison, who I don't think has much more left in being an AFL player. But there's always competition for spots. So he is going to be playing by the sounds of it. I haven't heard anything about him being in defence. It's going to be the wing where he's got a really nice left peg there. So I think what I'd like to see as a Hawk supporter is I know Essendon's main critique of him was not exactly being the best man-on-man defender. So I wouldn't like to see a Hawks game where he just lets his other winger go and they have a chance inside 50. So, look, yeah, he's on the fringe of being best 23 and you're paying $224K when there's a bit of selection concern, I guess. So I'm not 100% sure if D'Ambrosio's going to be in the team. So I gave him a 4.5 out of 10 just because there's a little bit of value there, but he's playing on the wing. That really does limit your capacity to score well in SuperCoach.
Yeah, agree, mate. The wing role isn't an ideal role, is it? And even at 224K, if you're going for a wing role, it's got to be, really rookie priced, I think, for me. Or you've got to be really confident in the player. So totally agree with that one there, mate. Beautiful. Now on to Bailey Macdonald. Now, unfortunately, as you can see on the slide here, he is dealing with a little bit of injury. So a bone stress in his femur. That doesn't sound terrific. 19-year-old reported discomfort in his upper leg following a training session late last month before scans revealed bone stress in his femur. Last year, only the 2 games, but 19 years old. Seemed like he's got a fair future. Obviously, we don't look too selecting at the moment, but do you think he could be someone that we may even look to downgrade to if he comes into the side during the season, mate?
Yeah, mate, maybe at some point. That's probably going to affect him a fair bit in terms of what he can do this season, unfortunately, because I actually do like Bailey Macdonald. He's got a bit of toe and shows a fair bit, but it's very unfortunate, actually, that he's come down with an injury. So I feel like there's not too much to say. I really do like him as a prospect, but not really SuperCoach relevant now at all this season. So he could be a downgrade option at some point if we're really desperate, because 174K is a bit to downgrade to. So I've given him a 0 out of 10. There's not much relevancy.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on then, mate. Not worth discussing a zero, mate. An
No,
absolute
no.
duck egg for poor old Bailey. Now, this is interesting. This is a man that 5.2% of sides are currently running with, Mr. Duke Newcombe. I remember this guy's debut. What a tackling beast. Oh, my eyes are just popping out of my head and going, where has this bloke been for the last couple of years? Why hasn't he been on a list? An absolute gun. I've heard that Sammy Mitchell may have just been hiding him a little bit there
Yeah,
before he
yeah.
came into the AFL system, possibly, mate. But last year, 98.3, so really pushing triple figures for an average year. Just a tick over 25 disposals, 11.2 contested there, 4.3 tackles, almost pushing 4.5 there. I think he can probably up that as well, John Newcombe. A CBA rate of 70%. So really nice there. The big questions for me, mate, are number one, can he break out to become an uber elite scorer? And number two, even if it's not uber elite for a midfielder, and I'm calling uber elite just say 117 plus, 120 plus type thing, what does he need to do to just achieve a 110 average? And you think he can get there? So a few things to throw at you, mate, but it's a pick on sniffing around slightly. The scent isn't a lovely scent to me, but what are you thinking about the Duke yourself, buddy?
Oh, mate, I love him as a player. Absolute ripper to watch. Hard to knock him. There's not too much wrong with his game. Just such a young age, not even being in the draft system at all. Just picked up in the mid-season draft. So,
Yeah, good say.
yeah. So I guess, sorry, can he break out into becoming an uber elite scorer? One day he will. I believe he can. Next for this season, no, I'm not going to say that just yet. Can he be an elite scorer? Like, what would what would you classify as an elite scorer? Probably 110 plus, I would say. It's probably
Yep.
So. He averaged 98 last year. I think it's not going to be a massive step like that. I just don't think he's quite going to get there. I think he can do 105, 106 because he can have some games where he just isn't as good. The consistency isn't fully there. Gee, he had a ripper game against the Dogs near the end of last year.
Didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, just totally killed the Dogs by himself. So, I mean, he's a massive talent, but and it's really good to watch as a Hawk supporter. But yeah, look, I think you're better off going Took, Steele, as blokes that there's better chance of them being keepers because we know in the past that they've been able to do so. And is he a keeper or a stepping stone? Now, I think this is too much for a stepping stone. What you
Agreed.
If you wanted him to be a stepping stone, what you need him to get to 700k to be somewhat, cool 700k. I just don't think he's that sort of player yet. I prefer, there's a couple I prefer, like Matt Crouch can save his 60k, and I do think Matt Crouch can have a very similar output to Newcombe. Now, I think Newcombe's definitely the better player, but Crouch is a fantasy pig. I think he has the potential to match Newcombe. So, what did I give him? I gave him a 6 out of 10, so I don't hate it.
Okay. Yep.
People can go there. I don't mind it. There's just players that I do prefer. So because you're picking him to be a keeper. Now there's every chance he could be, but yeah, I'm giving him a 6 out of 10. So people can go there if they fancy.
Love that summary, mate. And a really important point that you made, and you did bring this up a little bit earlier, is the fact that when you're looking at someone like a Newcombe at that price, you're really looking for him to break out because he doesn't have that history. A Crouch, a Steele, a Took type, they are the ultimate fall and premiums that do have history on their side. And this is a high scoring history. So I really love the point that you raised that, because when you're comparing a Newcombe to some of these other blokes, you are really banking on him doing something that he's never done before. And there's always red flags with blokes in the midfield around the 550k mark. Something just hasn't clicked to get them to that really uber elite set of scoring for that particular year. So I really like that summary, mate, and I'm with you. Love him as a player, but I think at the price there are so many better options that he's one we can pretty much skip past, mate. All right, on to the next bloke. Now, this is probably the conversation I've been looking forward to the most, because I have not been on this fella. Now, I think that ownership percentage, obviously it's accurate, right? But it depends on what community that you're taking this data from. Now, I know George did a video, an ownership video on his Discord, and surveyed his Discord, for example. That ownership percentage was way higher than that. I think if you look at the Twitter community or the X community, it's much higher than 2.7 with the average type side. Now, what's exciting people about Karl Amon? We look at his contested possessions there. Looks like a bit of a seagull, 3.7. Yeah. Doesn't really look like he's getting that hard ball. But it's the fact that there's been a mooted role change for this man. Now, we've just talked about the depth that they've got back there. And we've talked about the fact that there's players that are very versatile. This bloke can play, I think, maybe an inside mid role. When I say inside mid, not getting that real hard ball, but feeding it out. He could play a wing. He could play half forward. And he can obviously play half back, which is, I think, what the mooted role is for him going into this year. Now, when he played back last year, that average went right up, much more than 86.5. It was over triple figures. So I'm really keen, mate, to get your thoughts on Karl Amon and whether or not he could be a legitimate starting pick. I think for most people, plan is obviously start him as in your midfielder only, you got no option, and then you're going to get him back into defense, hopefully for a top 8 to 10 keeper. What are your thoughts on Karl Amon?
Geez, an interesting one. Someone heading into this season, I definitely wouldn't think I'd be talking about, but here we are.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
No way. 2.7% ownership. I feel like most of that would be content creators, SuperCoach, Discords, that sort of thing. So I feel like not many people outside that world don't really know much about like what's going on with Karl Amon. So can he be he won't be a midfield keeper. Can he be a defensive keeper? I think there's a chance that he could be top 10. Now, this is purely dependent on whether he's actually going to stay in that role, stay in that half-back role, because obviously we know he's one of the better wingers in the competition. I mean, we're paying him $700,000 for him to be one of the better wingers of the competition.
Hey, really? Is he on 700?
Yeah, mate, we had a lot of cap space. Yeah, he's on 700 for another, I think, 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, no, we're paying up at a point.
Yeah.
So
decent player. Yeah, not something I associate 750K with is all, mate. Just yeah. Sorry, mate. Continue. I was just a little bit shocked there, but
no worries, mate. So, can he be a defensive keeper? I think there's a chance for him to be top 10 if he can stay in that role. I think I heard a little bit about training simulation where there was one time where he was rotating wing and half back. So that is a bit of a worry. But
red flag. Yeah.
Yeah, look, because Sam Mitchell's, as I think I've said before, is big on versatility with players. That just seems to be what he's really on about. And so that sort of means that there's no guarantee that a bloke like Amon can stay in that role. So I made a video about 5-6 days ago about Amon versus Nick Martin versus Matt Crouch. I actually put Amon 2.
Nice.
I put Amon 2, Nick Martin 1, Crouch 3. I'm going to slip Amon back to number 3 out of those 3. Okay. So I prefer Nick Martin and Matt Crouch for the time being. Like, a lot can change, but I just think with the potential risk of versatility, I mean, Mitchell ain't going to move Newcombe to the forward line or Sicily to the forward line, that sort of thing. Like, his gun players and his placeholders, like they're not placeholders, his main stars that he's working with, very confident that they're just going to stay there. But blokes like Amon, you can mix and match with him. So I'd say it's a bit of a risk with picking Amon to that extent. I mean, I still gave the pick a 7.5 out of 10 because there's still a decent chance.
Yeah, fair. Yeah,
decent chance that he can be a keeper. And a couple of points are lost with him potentially having that versatility of swapping back onto the wing, and also 0.5 lost as well, just due to there's no guarantees about him actually getting DPP. Like, imagine if he gets moved to a wing on round 3 straight away. It's just and then you're stuck.
That could actually be a disaster, couldn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he could.
that
He
could be
might just have to
really
be a
bad, mate.
9. Yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll leave it there. So there's a bit of risk with that. So I like to think I tried my best to cover that pretty well. But yeah, so there's some mixture of good things and bad things with him with the pick.
Fantastic, mate. And again, a great point that you raised was that with certain players, you know where they're going to play their football. They're just
Yeah,
locked into a particular role, and you know they're not going to play anywhere else. Amon with his versatility, and well, look, he hasn't had an elite history in any role in particular. He's a really good wingman, though. That could be a bit of a put off. So, yeah, great summation there, mate. But certainly one that we should all be at least keeping on our watch list at a bare minimum, I think. But never made his way into my side anyway.
yeah.
Next bloke here is Joshy Ward. So, super high draft pick. Super talented bloke as well. Love this guy, left footer. Now, some people think that he may have regressed or Hawthorn may have reached for him. I certainly don't think so. I think at the time he was one of the best young talents in the country. Last year, 72.9, averaged just under 21 disposals, 5.3 of those contested, almost a couple of tackles. Now, super pod here, mate. Only 0.3% ownership. Is it worth even discussing this bloke, Josh Ward? Is there any potential upside? Does he have any relevance? Or do we just pretty much move on to the next player, mate?
Definitely not for SuperCoach Classic. I would not be picking him. For the SuperCoach Classic pick, I was probably actually generous. I gave him a 2 out of 10. But
Okay, yep.
But I think he's going to be the bloke in the until Will Day gets back to actually get the inside midfield minutes. So
Okay,
he's really sneaky for draft just until Day's back, and then you drop him and that sort of thing. But
nice.
yeah, so for draft, he's certainly one. It depends on how many blokes you're picking in your side with the draft, but he's probably one of those blokes that I would probably have, because he can rack up the ball a fair bit. He's a solid option for the time being until Will Day's back. So I don't think there should be many drafts where he's not in a team. So yeah, I gave him a 2 out of 10 in Classic, but he's a really solid draft option.
Beautiful, and that's something that people don't take too much interest in the draft, but there are some people that absolutely love their SuperCoach draft. So yeah, good pick there, mate. Potentially for a bit of a deep draft.
Yep.
Next bloke we have here, mate, is my man Henry Hustwaite. 19 years old, only the 2 games last year. Pretty solid average over those 2 games, though, with 66 in 1.6% of sides. In those 2 games as well, had a 25% CBA rate. But I suppose the first question I've had, mate, and look, you're not Sam Mitchell. We know there's a lot of competition for spots, but do you see him currently as best 22? And if not, can he break into the 22 at some stage this year?
Oh, it's tough. Like, I personally reckon Hawthorn have too many midfielders. Like, I know the media this time last year were just bashing us. Get some mids in now. And now we've got too many of the bastards. So now that's nothing to discredit with Henry Hustwaite, because he's actually, from what I saw in the last couple of games last year, he showed some really promising signs that I liked. He's got a good step. He's tall. He's bloody tall mid. I forgot how tall he is, but I think there's something like that. He's the same height as Buddy or something. I don't think that's true, but he's certainly one of the tallest mids in the competition.
Okay.
Speed is something that he lacks, but he's a young kid, and so I call him Pencil because he's built like one. So
love it, Pencil.
I'll make Pencil, but can he break his way into the 22? There's a lot of competition, so I think it's going to be a bit tough. I think there will be games. I think he will be given a few more games this year. I don't think he's the versatile type just yet as well. I think he can only play inside mid, to my knowledge.
Okay.
He's certainly ahead of the likes of Cooper Stevens, who don't think will be on our list for much longer. So, so I think Hustwaite is certainly, there's a chance. He might even come in while Will Day's out. I mean, to maybe be the 4th or 5th rotating, probably the 5th rotating CBA bloke. So, or the sub, maybe, you don't know. Any preseason training reports? I mean, nothing outstanding, but it's still saying that he has a really good step. He's making a really good impression. I think Warple hyped him up a fair bit in an interview. What's his likely role? Going to be purely inside mid because he just can't play anywhere else just yet. So what did I give him? I gave him a 3 out of 10, but at the same time, it's going to be we were talking off air. There's going to be blokes like Colby McKercher, Riley Sanders around his price at
absolutely
obviously must-haves, and then you've got blokes like Jeremy Sharp, who's been on the system for a few years, that has good scoring history. So I'd say he's a better scorer with better job security. So I think if he was 123k, there would be a fair bit of interest, but unfortunately, those 2 games at the end of the year certainly killed probably his relevancy.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, it's shocking. Sorry to go off topic, but the guy they've been on all pre-season has been James Trezise, and of course the bastard played the last game of the season and scored a 93. He's in my current team, but it's just that sort of thing where, just these last round debuts just kill the potential for next season.
It's the SuperCoach gods, they stuff you for a whole season, and right at the end, just a little extra punch in the guts or a kick while you're down. There you go.
Yeah,
congratulations on season 2023. There goes your bargain pick. So love it, mate. But yeah, totally agree. Too many better options at or below the price at this stage. Now into the forward line. So got a few options here before we finish up, mate. Now, Dylan Moore, I love as a player. 24 years old, 23 games last year, just over 90 for an average, just over 20 possessions on average as well. Didn't quite get to a goal a game rate. You can see a very low CBA rate there of 3%. I actually think that he could run through that midfield and have a fair impact. But I think the trouble for him, and I call it the Toby Green factor, is the fact that he's just so good at what he does up forward with that forward role. So does he become relevant this year due to the lack of forward options that we've got? I must admit that usually with a Dylan Moore, he's such an easy skip for me. But this year, as we all know, there's no Rosies, Gouldens and Dunkleys that are actually available. Jack McRae, question marks with the hammy. Some people are questioning whether or not Dimmer will actually allow Flanders to score like he did at the end of last year. Will he give Tuke more of that time? So there's question marks around a lot of these forwards, mate. So that's why I have included him today. So what do you think about Dylan Moore? Does he have any relevance this year? Is he a decent starting pick, or maybe one just to purely put on the watch list for now?
So it's an interesting one. So maybe Ben from SuperCoach Insider that keeps chatting crap about my man Dylan Moore. Maybe just tune out for a couple of minutes here while I hype this bloke up. Like I really like him as a player. I think he's just about one of the. I'm not going to say one of the best in the competition, but he's very good at his high half forward role. Moves up into defence, then sprints right back in the forward line. I think he certainly runs a lot of Ks in our team, which is clear because, I mean, he's just, I think ever since his draft year, he's just always been a really good runner and good endurance player. So I just think that's pretty important for him. It's just more the fact, can he actually get in that midfield rotation? I'm going to say no, because he's actually, unfortunately, too good at what he is.
Dairy.
I mean, as a Hawthorn supporter, I want him to stay in the role, but I guess in SuperCoach, I mean, I'm sure people are disappointed that he can't quite get in the midfield, because I do think I think there would be a couple of clubs out there that would absolutely love to have this bloke play in the midfield, to be honest. Like, I think that's how highly I rate him. He's a good player. So, look, I gave the pick I was a little bit generous. I gave him a 5 out of 10 just due to how crap the forward line is. So I gave him a couple of extra brownie points for just being a forward, because there's actually half a chance that he's top 10 this year. So, So as you said in the second point down below, he becomes more relevant just due to the lack of forward options. So I gave him a 5 out of 10, couple of brownie points for just being a forward. So
nice rating, mate.
That's
nice
what I gave
rating.
him there. Yeah.
And what I love about this,
I might just turn the light on. It's gotten real dark here.
Oh, you're getting a bit dark there, mate. Going in the dark.
There we go.
Oh, beautiful. Now we can see your beautiful face
Yeah,
better,
much
mate.
better. Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah. But yeah, look, why I really respect Dylan Moore, and remember, he was on the absolute scrap heap, mate. I thought his career's over, no future
Yeah.
for Dylan Moore. Then he came back hungry as ever and really proved a point. And I agree with you, mate. Look, probably won't go as far as one of the best, but he's in that probably next second tier for me in regards to what he does for his role. So super player, but just doesn't have the role that we want for SuperCoach, mate.
Very much so.
Now, the next bloke. Now, talk about wanting a bit of midfield time. George, this is George's man, the old C-Mac. He's just begging Sam Mitchell, give this man some midfield time so I can select him in my team. It's like I hear George talk about this guy every preseason. And look, I agree. He's got the talent. I think that if he had a bit of a chunk of time in that midfield and consistent time there, that he could make a real impact and actually be a lot more relevant as a SuperCoach option. But I do have their gangster life, a bit of a gangster photo, because I was talking with Jordan Spills last night and he was caught in the background of one of Spaniard's videos there around Dandy. So a bit of a gangster G, I think Conor may be. Love his haircut as well, just like Weddle. Maybe a couple of extra points for the haircut here, but 68.2 last year, 5.3 contested. I won't go through all the stats there, but exactly 2% actually of coaches currently have this man in their side. I'm guessing it's maybe some hope for some more midfield time, but do you see the midfield time happening, or at least an increase on that 3%? And do you think there's any value at all to the Macdonald pick, mate?
Yeah, I love the man, and even as a Hawks supporter, I don't think I have the same amount of love that George does for him. Yeah, he was in Spaniard's vlog. He didn't say anything, but yeah, it was a bit of a weird collab there. I never really expected. I don't think I had that on my bingo card. So yeah, so with Conor Macdonald, so I've actually changed his rating from 5 to a 5.5 because of the mullet tax.
Excellent,
So,
mate. Yeah, mullet tax. I like that. That's something we're going to implement on this channel, mate. A mullet tax. I like it.
Yep, the mullet
0.5
tax.
for a mullet. Yep.
0.5 for a mullet. What is he? 381k. I think he's still training as a high half forward once again. So
sorry, George.
Just because I think, unfortunately, I think there's going to be a bit of a struggle for him to get to be relevant. There would have to be a couple of blokes to go down injured. So along with Dave, might have to be a Warple and a Nash for him to just sneak in there. So I mean, he's pretty good at he's pretty good at the roles, and as a 21-year-old being good as the graveyard high half forward role, it's pretty tough. So he's actually, I thought he started off slow last year, but certainly built his way into the season. And look, I certainly think he's a much better player than being stuck at half forward his whole career. But just for the time being, it's a bit hard to just sneak him into that midfield rotation. I haven't really, I think I've heard a little bit about him training inside midfield and has impressed. So maybe there's a chance he could take Josh Ward's chances of playing inside midfield very early into the season. But in saying that, that's very early into the season. What's going to happen when Will Day comes back to high half forward? So once again, it might be a very similar thing to where he's much better as a draft option. But yeah, if he got the keys to be playing inside midfield, I think every man and his dog would jump on. So I gave him a 5.5, gave him an extra 0.5 for the mullet tax.
Beautiful, mate.
Yeah, look, I just can't quite get myself to pick him.
No worries at all, mate. Agree there. Moving on from C-Mac. We are almost coming to the end, mate. The next bloke, again, I'm pretty much one I'd skip past, but for the 1.2% of owners, we've got Cam Mackenzie here, 21 years old, 14 games last year, average under 50. So the numbers don't look terrific there. CBA rate of 20. You like that? That's okay. Coming in as that mid rotation, but there is a fantastic talent. But is there any relevance to this bloke in SuperCoach this year, Steve? Am I missing something that I'm not seeing here?
No, you're not missing anything, mate. I think it's a similar situation to Hustwaite, but even more expensive. So, I wouldn't. I think before we started recording, I saw an interview with him on Channel 10 about him talking about trying to build his game to be stronger and faster and run for longer for every contest. So I think there will be occasions this season where he has a crack in the midfield. He seems very mature as a young man. So, but there's not really much to talk about. In my personal opinion as a Hawthorn supporter, I reckon he could easily have been one of those options to where you could do a Sheezer with him, put him at half back because he's that good of a ball user. And I'm surprised Hawthorn have never really thought of that idea, but that's why I'm not the coach. But I personally think he has the right traits to do that sort of role. But they're not doing it, which is fair enough. I mean, they want him to be a midfielder in his career, so I guess you start him out early. Give him this pick 2 out of 10. Not even for draft. Like, I'd give him a skip.
Well, mate, don't underrate yourself as a coach. Sammy Mitchell's only won a Brownlow and a few premierships, mate.
Yeah.
Not a fantastic resume.
I've played, and compared to me, where I've played 60 games for the Campbell Sharks, so we're pretty close.
Exactly. How is the man even in the role and you're not, mate? I'll tell you what, 60 games for the Sharks, mate. Hall of Famer, I reckon, bloke. We're going to finish up here, mate, with Nicky Watson. Now, one thing that I was really surprised with, to be quite honest, we were talking pre-podcast again, mate, 27.7% ownership. I just went, wow-wee. This bloke is a small forward. Now, pick 5. And I'm not trying to pick on him here, but I'm just highlighting the fact that he's 170 centimetres. So one of the smallest players in the comp. Certainly a crafty forward, kicked 14 goals for Vic Metro in 2023. That led to an All-Australian position for him. First of all, mate, do you think that it was a bit of a reach for Nick Watson at pick 5, given the fact that there were players like your Daniel Curtin that was available, for example? Or do you think that he's got the talent, he fits a need, and you're fairly happy as a supporter selecting him at 5? So what do you think about where he's selected, mate? Are you a fan of that?
Well, it's an interesting one. Interesting thing you brought up. It's pretty rare for clubs to be picking a small forward with such a high draft pick. Usually clubs would want to go after a key position player or a midfielder or a ruckman. We've gone for a small forward. So other than a small defender, like, this is probably the second least position that you would pick a sort of a bloke in your top 10. But he was picked top 10. He was picked top 5 for a reason. He's clearly a very talented kid. So I'm very excited for him. And apparently he's been lining it up at Hawthorn training. So I don't think I'll get to that later. I'll get to the SuperCoach thing later. But I think he's going to be. I think there's a good chance. I'd be surprised if he turned out to be a dud. Let's just say that. I think he will be a player that gets bums off seats for the Hawks faithful. So I think he'll be super exciting. I think there's similarities to Tom Papley, that sort of thing. And
nice.
I mean, if you're getting I know Tom Papley was picked a lot later, but if you're getting a top Papley sort of a bloke, you can't really knock the pick. But I've never seen him play. So it's still a long time for me to make my judgment. But from what I'm hearing, it's very exciting. I'll get into the SuperCoach part. Is he a SuperCoach pick? No, he's not. And at 27.7%, I'm bizarre. I find it bizarre.
Me too, mate. You're not alone. Yeah.
Yeah, mate. I don't get it. I'm posting a little bit more on TikTok now. So SDS_SuperCoach. I did my own little traps video on there. And I just don't get it. Like, small forward in a bottom 6 team, very likely a bottom 6 team again. It just never really results into good, consistent scoring. And I'd be very surprised if he got to if he made like 120K. I'd be pretty surprised. So I think it's a bit of the high draft pick tax as well, with just picking a bloke. Maybe not many people know much about SuperCoach, and they just go, all right, I know this bloke was pick 5. Surely he might go all right. But I think that might be the thought process here, because I just don't think this is a SuperCoach pick. In my book, you've got blokes at bargain basement rookie price that will score better than him, and I could probably think about 10 blokes lower in price than him in the forward line that will make a lot more money. So
with you.
Look, no mucking about. I gave him a 3 out of 10. I gave him an extra point because of how crap the forward line is, but yeah, don't understand this pick. As a Hawk supporter, want to love him, but just as a SuperCoach pick, I just don't get it.
I could not agree more, mate. Great little summation there. And look, good luck to you. If you want to go there, you've got a bit of a gut feel about him. He can have a real impact. He's got DPP status. Obviously, pick 5, as you just mentioned, mate. He's a talented player. So if you want to go there, by all means do it. But as Steve just mentioned, there are so many picks at or below this price. I just think it's a little bit nuts myself. But yeah, a no from the both of us on Nick Watson. But good luck if you want to go there. Mate, we have come to the end. That was a brilliant chat. We've just been gone for over 50 minutes there, so enjoyed every second of this, mate. Your knowledge on the Hawks, in my opinion, is close to second to none. I know you've been very busy. It is hard to get all this information, and I only reached out to you a few days ago about coming on, mate. So I really appreciate that. And also very excited to announce that Steve will be coming on as a co-host of some of my upcoming team previews as well. So thank you very much for agreeing to come on there, mate. Stoked to have you on. Jonathan Spills can't always make it at times. Big J's also going to be coming on. I'm going to catch up with him tomorrow night as well for our North Melbourne team preview. So super stoked about that, mate. And thank you very, very much for coming on, legend.
Mate, thank you so much. As you know, I love jumping on the channel here with you. You're just one of the best blokes in the SuperCoach community. There's plenty of good blokes, but you just stand out as an absolute star, just an absolute legend you are. So, look, it's an absolute honor to be back on the channel again. Hopefully, everyone learned a bit about the Hawks, about SuperCoach picks. And, yeah, so, look, it'll be an honor as well to jump on some team previews with you. So, very excited to see what that looks like.
Awesome, mate. Now, before you leave us, tell us, have you got any upcoming content on your YouTube channel? And also, we just heard that you got a TikTok account. I've got your X details or Twitter details up here, but give a shout out to any other of the socials that you're currently running with, brother.
Yeah, all right. So, obviously, I'm probably most known on YouTube. So, I think last time I checked, 734 subscribers. Love to get 1,000 before round 1, 2024. I think
we'll
that's
get
about
you there, mate.
37, 36 days, so not much time. But of course, on my channel, I'll still be looking to smash out a lot of content because this is roughly the most important time of the year to just be smashing out content. And yeah, so that'll be super exciting. I'll be doing a lot more collabs. I'll make sure I get this great man onto the channel as well. I remember we tried to do an NBL video and the file got corrupted. So yeah. So doing a lot of collabs. We went on with George as well. Unfortunately, the video didn't work out the way I would have liked, but yeah, it's good to just catch up with a lot of these content creators. So we'll be looking to do a lot more of that. Obviously, though, I'll still be doing videos with my good mate Brad from SuperCoach Pro. So he's an absolute legend. Awesome. So we'll definitely,
great man. Yeah,
he's an absolute legend. So we'll be doing a lot of videos together. I don't. On my Twitter profile, you're more than welcome to follow me there, Stephen D.W. Smith. I caused a little controversy by saying, do people actually like oysters? So that was always good to get.
Okay. I better get on that in on that discussion, mate. Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe the boys from Third Man Up thought, nah, oysters are great. I thought, so much better, you boys, Ross and Janeth.
Hey, and so Roth and Janice are oyster fans.
Yeah, they rate them.
Oh, Steve, this is criminal.
We were getting on so well. What's going on?
So, I've given the Third Man Up a massive shout out. I find out they're oyster fans.
Yeah,
Ross and Janet, we're going to need to have a serious discussion here, lads. Because I'm with you, Steve. Absolutely no deal, Robbo, when it comes to oysters. The thought of it.
Nah,
I don't even want to go there, mate.
I tried one as a kid, and I that didn't end well, so I can't do it again. Yeah, I can't do oysters, and I like seafood, but just not them, So, interesting by Jonathan Ross, but so yeah, have a bit of fun on Twitter as well. Shout out to my man Liam Vertigan in the profile picture, of course. Very lovely photo.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. Good on you, Liam.
And of course, shout out to Luke Stubbs, who also did my channel art. I'm not sure if people knew that, but yeah, he did all the logos, except for the green one. But he did the blue logo, the cover photo. He's done a fantastic job. So
awesome, mate.
Make sure you get in contact with him if you can, because he is just super talented bloke like that. So so that's my Twitter. Instagram I don't really use. I need to find a way to make better use of that. I don't really use it, but I'll try to find a way. But probably part of the reason I'm not really using it is because I'm doing a lot more on TikTok now. So basically a second sort of content sort of platform, of course, because I noticed there wasn't really many people doing it. So I just thought, you know what, this could be a good way to build up my channel. I started that, I think, in July. But now I'm getting a little bit more creative with my TikTok. So I think it's mainly me and Shorty as the main two doing SuperCoach content on TikTok. So SDS_SuperCoach is the TikTok where I've done different style of videos and all that. So make sure you follow me on there. And yeah, look, I think that's about it. Like, thank you very much for having me on again. Great, man.
The pleasure is all mine, mate. So guys, thank you very much for sticking with us till the end. Tomorrow night, I'm catching up, as I mentioned before, with my man, Big J from the Centre Bounce. And I'm hoping that my man, Causa, longest serving member, or one of the longest serving members of my channel, who's a North Melbourne man as well, can jump on. Causa the ladies, man. So
yeah, get the ladies man on, mate.
We got it. We got it, mate. We actually did, as Steve mentioned before, an NBL video with the ladies man himself, but just didn't work out in the end with
I'll do another video with you, ladies man. Don't you worry, Causa. I'll do a video with you before the season starts.
Awesome, mate. Well, legend, thank you very much for joining me again. Guys, take care. Hope that you are well, and stay tuned for the next team preview coming out tomorrow night. Cheers, guys. See you soon, Steve. Bye, mate.
See ya.